Hey everyone, this is Casey Todd. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the American Renaissance, a couple of my favorite authors, and kind of touch base a little bit on transcendentalism. This is for English 491 with Mr. Rogers. We'll go ahead and start off just talking a little bit about it. It really didn't go much past the 1850s. It was more like a revival, and without the inspirations of Mr. Emerson and his little posse, um, there really wouldn't have been much of one at all. With some of the influences of Mr. Hawthorne, Herman Melville, we all know about him, and of course the infamous Walt Whitman, it kind of shifted the balance between English literature and kind of got it away from the British the British literature that was so popular back in that time. This new literature from these authors was fresh and new and young and exciting, and that kind of made it into the Transcendentalist. They were not just your regular people; they were more in tune to the people, the Native American people, the African Americans. Um, they spoke a lot about women's rights. They encouraged protests against the government when they felt like it wasn't really for the common good. Um, it was the fuel that spoke the fires of American literature for, I guess, from then to now. The first author I want to talk about is Emily Dickinson. She was an American poet, and she was very private, very secluded. She didn't go out much. She talked a lot with her friends through letters, which I found really, really kind of interesting for a writer that's so popular. It turns out she didn't even get a lot of her stuff published until after she already passed away. She had a lot of stuff obviously done while she was alive, but it found out that her sister, after she passed away, her sister actually found 1,800 poems stashed away in a room. I thought it was kind of cool, kind of interesting that she was so secluded and had a whole different life rather than what she had in her poetry. What else can I talk about? Like many writers, like a lot of them today, myself included, is she wrote about what she knew and things that she liked. She was a person, an observer that watched things around her. She liked to talk about nature, religion, music, law, medicine, domestic activities, and a lot about death, about herself, about immortality, and of course, what all women talk about, love. Um, a lot of her poems dealt with death and immortality, which I guess were, um, according to the research, always coming back and forth, always reoccurring in what she was talking about. I guess, and nowadays it'd be considered emo. Um, she doesn't really have a set theme like a lot of authors now. They have, okay, well, I write this type of story. I write teen fiction. I write this, that, and this. She didn't really have that. She kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything, which is, I guess, is a good thing. She didn't really have any titles to any of her works either. So when the titles came out of people trying to give a title, it was they would always use the first line of her poems, which is kind of cool, but kind of weird at the same time, I guess. Um, and I guess she has been regarded alongside Mr. Emerson as a transcendentalist. Fun fact is Dickinson, Miss Emily, taught American literature and poetry classes in the U.S. from middle school age children up to college, which I think is a kind of fun fact. The second one I want to talk about is Walt Whitman. He was an American poet, just like Emily. He did essays, he was a journalist, he was part also of the transition between transcendentalism and realism, kind of using both of the views in his works. He was a very influential poet in the American canon. He's also called Father of the Free Verse, which is kind of neat. Whitman worked as a journalist. He was a teacher, a government clerk, and he even did some volunteering during the American Civil War. Apparently, he was really controversial during his time. Something about his sexuality, they didn't really know what it was. They didn't know if he was homosexual male or bisexual male. Biographers till this day still kind of argue about it. But in his story, Leaves of Grass, which I guess was very obscene for so much sexuality, it was published in 1855, and he did it with his own money, which is kind of neat. The work was supposed to catch fire with the human people, the common people, and he continuously expanded and revised Leaves of Grass until his death in 1892. Our third and final author is Miss Margaret Fuller. First name Sarah, actually. Margaret's her middle name. She was also an American journalist. She was a critic and a huge women's rights advocate who was heavily associated with the American Transcendentalism movement. She was our first full-time American female book reviewer in journalism. Her book, Woman in the 19th Century, was considered the first major feminist work in the U.S. In 1939, Mr. Emerson was seeking an editor. He was looking out for an editor for his journal, The Dial, which is a transcendentalist journal, because we all know that, like I was saying before, he was the father of free verse. After many people declined his offer for the position, he offered it to Margaret Fuller, and she accepted it. He called her his vivacious friend. He met her in 1835, and he said that she made him laugh more than he originally liked to laugh, which is kind of neat. It means when I think of it like that, I think of that she was a fun person, that she was very down to earth, very blunt. I like that. The next summer, after their meeting, Fuller went to Emerson's home and accepted the offer to edit The Dial, which is that journal, in 1839. And it started in 1840, and she did it for 2 years. She was promised a salary of $200, an annual salary of $200, but she never got paid. She was recognized, because of dealing with The Dial, she was recognized as one of the most important figures of the Transcendentalist movement, which is awesome. Women of the 19th Century, which was a book she wrote, was considered one of the major documents in American feminism. It's considered the first of its kind in the United States. Fuller's work is considered mainly literary because it was valued in the politics of her time. She didn't cover anything up. These three authors played a huge part in the movement of taking it kind of away from what American literature was with the British and making it more, I want to say, modern. And I think we still use some of it today. I think it's influenced our literature to what we are now, and it'll always be an important part of literature as a whole. Thanks so much.